Rain tapped against the kitchen window. A single lamp burned low over the counter, and in its light stood a young man frozen mid-motion, staring down at a small velvet pouch that had just spilled open in his palm. A silver necklace lay across his fingers. He didn't touch it. He just stared, breath shallow, as if looking away would make it more real. From the hallway came a cheerful voice, footsteps approaching. "Found the leftovers, should I heat them up, or?" The voice stopped. He'd seen the face at the counter. Seen the necklace. "Where did you get that?" "Quiet now. Careful. It was in my coat pocket." Barely audible. "I didn't put it there." Thunder rolled outside. He crossed the room slowly, lifted the necklace between two fingers like it might burn him. "This is the one from the photograph. The one the police showed us." "I know. Look at me." "Did you?" "I didn't do anything." The words cracked halfway through. "I don't even know how it got there." "Someone put it there. Someone wants it to look like." A loud knock cut him off. Both of them froze. Red and blue light swept faintly across the ceiling through the curtains. "That's not a delivery." The door opened only a crack. On the other side stood a tired-eyed detective in his mid-40s, unimpressed and unhurried, two officers behind him. "We need you to come with us. Questions regarding Sendnuya Fachinanan." "I never met her." Steadier than he felt. "Then this will be quick." When the younger man moved to follow, the detective raised a hand. "Family only. I am his family." "Firm." He stepped past the hand anyway. The detective studied him for a beat, the protectiveness, the hand already resting at the small of the other man's back. Something in his face softened, fractionally, like he'd seen this exact posture before and it always meant the same thing. He sighed. "Fine. But you wait outside the room." The interrogation room held nothing but a bare table and a single folder. The detective slid a photograph across it, a necklace laid out on an evidence bag, beside a photo of a young woman, smiling, alive, at some outdoor event. Sendnuya Fachinanan. 26. Reported missing 8 months ago. Found 3 days ago. This necklace was the last thing her sister saw her wearing. "I'm sorry. I am. But I never knew her. I don't know why it was in my coat." His voice was tight. "Someone wants us to think you do." The detective leaned back, studying him now, not like a man building a case, but a man doing math. "You work at Sirikai Clinic, don't you?" "Records department." "Yes." "Why?" "Because 3 weeks ago, someone broke into that exact records room. Nothing was stolen. Except one file." He didn't say whose. He let the silence stretch, watching the younger man's face. "You don't know whose file, do you?" "No. Neither do I." He stood, gathering the folder. "Yet." In the hallway outside, the pacing stopped the moment the door opened. "What did they say?" "Are you?" "Someone is building something around me. Piece by piece. And I don't know why." Shaken. Quieter than before. He was pulled into a tight hold right there in the hallway, uncaring who watched. Then we find out why before they finish building it. Across the city, in a dim, wood-paneled study far too expensive to belong to an honest man, a father sat behind a large desk while his son paced in front of it, late 20s, sharp-dressed, restless in a way that read as long-practiced obedience rather than respect. "You said you found her. The pure Omega." "I said we found where she works. Not who she is." "Not yet." "Then why send men to plant evidence on some records clerk? What does that have to do with anything?" Frustration, barely leashed. "Because a frightened person makes mistakes. And a frightened person under police suspicion cannot run. Calm. Unbothered." The son stared at his father, something shifting behind his eyes, the first crack of real doubt. "You're framing an innocent man for murder to flush someone else out." "I'm securing your future." I never asked you to. Low. Cold. The father stood, voice hardening. No one asks for what they need before they have it. You'll thank me when the Omega bond is sealed and this family's line is unbreakable for another generation. Everything else, he gestured dismissively, as if brushing away a person, is arrangement. The son held his gaze a long moment. Then walked out without another word. His father watched him go, unmoved, already turning back to his papers. At the clinic, a warm, exhausted doctor in her 50s walked briskly down the lab corridor, folder in hand, before being intercepted by a man in his early 30s whose worry was etched into every line of his posture. Doctor. The results. Please, just tell me. She glanced around, lowered her voice. Not here. She pulled him into a side room and closed the door. Based on the blood and urine test results, we can confirm your designation was never beta. He went very still. What are you saying? You were registered as beta at birth. Someone altered your file. You're omega. And based on the trace markers, you're a pure line. The blood drained from his face. He sat down hard on the exam table, staring at nothing. 28 years, he whispered. 28 years I thought I was. Listen to me. Gentle, urgent. That missing file from 3 weeks ago, I think it was yours. Someone already knows. You need to disappear before they find you the way they found the file. He looked up, dazed. Ansa. Ansa works records. If a file went missing, he'd know exactly when. He could. Ansa is the one being blamed for it right now. Whoever did this is very good at making sure the people closest to the truth take the fall for finding it. That night, back in the apartment, the young man from the opening sat curled on the couch, arms around his knees. His partner came in with 2 mugs of tea, set one beside him, and sat close but careful not to crowd him. You've been quiet since we got back. What if it doesn't matter what I actually did? What if the story someone else tells about me is louder than the truth? He set his mug down, turned fully to face him. Then we make sure the truth is louder. A beat, softer now. A person's worth isn't determined by what other people decide to believe about them. It's not in a necklace someone planted, or a file someone stole. It's here. He touched his own chest, then gently, the other man's. In the heart. That's the only place it's ever really lived. Eyes welling, he leaned into the shoulder offered to him. A long, quiet moment passed. Don't let go, came the muffled voice against him. Never planned to. A kiss pressed to the top of his head. Then, softer, a glance downward. Can I? A gesture toward his stomach, the faintest hint that this was not new information, that something had been growing quietly beneath the whole story so far. A small, shy nod. He leaned down and pressed the gentlest kiss just above the navel. A wet laugh, wiping at his eyes. Don't kiss there. It's not going to hear you yet. I just want to say hello. Meanwhile, in the corridor of the family estate, the son walked fast, phone pressed to his ear, voice hushed and urgent. It's me. I need everything you have on the records, clerk. Everything my father doesn't know I'm asking for. A pause, listening. I don't care what it costs. He didn't do this. I'm not going to watch an innocent man's life get burned down to build my cage. He hung up, stared out at the estate grounds, jaw tight, a man beginning, for the first time, to choose a side against his own blood. Asterisk, a quiet montage unfolds here, carried by an original instrumental theme, swelling strings, a single piano motif repeating and fracturing, no lyrics, a phone screen glowing with evidence photos of a necklace, a bag being packed with shaking hands in a dim apartment, a folder of stolen research sitting untouched on a lonely desk, a hand resting protectively over the small curve of a sleeping stomach, a father, alone, pouring a drink, utterly certain he is the hero of this story. Asterisk. Late that night, in a quiet office at the police station, the detective sat alone, reviewing a clinic's staff roster on his screen. He stopped on one name. Cross-referenced something. His eyes narrowed. Registered beta. Reassigned omega, pending confidential review. Filed and pulled the same week the records office was broken into. He pulled up the records clerk's employee access logs beside it, and a new name appeared in the corner of the screen, someone who had accessed both files the same night. He leaned in close, reading it. "There you are," he said quietly, with grim satisfaction. "We don't learn the name yet." Only the look on his face, a man realizing the frame-up has a far bigger architect than one missing necklace. Back in the apartment, the night had gone still. One of them slept peacefully, the other sat up beside him, unable to close his eyes, a phone screen lighting his face. A text had just arrived from an unknown number. Asterisk, tell him to stop looking for who he is. Some Omegas who find out don't survive long enough to regret it. A friend. Asterisk. His face went cold. He looked over at the sleeping figure beside him, one hand curled protectively over his own stomach even in sleep. "Whoever you are," he whispered, resolve hardening, "you'll have to go through me first." A man cornered in an alley by two shadows he can't outrun, asterisk, you shouldn't have gone looking, pure Omega. Asterisk. A son standing in a doorway, holding a folder he was never supposed to find, asterisk, I know who did this to you. And I know why. Asterisk. A detective staring at a board where 3 lives are now connected by red string, asterisk, this isn't one case. It's one family's secret, spread across 3 lives. Asterisk. A father, receiving a call, his comm cracking for the first time, asterisk, he knows? He told him? Asterisk. And in a quiet apartment, a hand resting on his stomach, a question spoken into the dark, asterisk, if they're hunting pure Omegas, and I'm carrying one, what if they come for our child next? The alley smelled of rain and rust. He walked fast, glancing over his shoulder every few steps, a duffel bag slung across his chest like armor. 28 years of thinking he knew exactly what he was, and now every shadow felt like it was watching him differently. 2 men stepped out from behind a stack of crates before he reached the end of the alley. He stopped hard, heart slamming. You shouldn't have gone looking, pure Omega. I didn't go looking. His voice shook despite himself. It found me. Doesn't matter how it happened. Only matters that it did. The taller one moved closer, almost gentle about it, which was somehow worse than if he'd shouted. The master just wants to talk. That's all. No one has to get hurt tonight. Then why do you both look like hurting people is exactly your plan? Neither answered. The bag slipped from his shoulder as he backed against the wall, and for a moment it seemed the whole story might end right there, in an alley no one would think to search. Then headlights swept across the brick. A car braked hard at the alley's mouth. A door slammed. Step away from him. The voice belonged to someone the 2 men clearly hadn't expected to see, sharp-dressed, out of place in an alley like this, but standing like he'd already decided he wasn't leaving without answers. The son. The one who'd spent his whole life being spoken about like property and had finally had enough of it. This isn't your business, the taller man said. My father made it my business the moment he decided my future needed a stranger's blood to secure it. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Tell him I found the file. Tell him I know exactly what he did to get it. And tell him if anything happens to this man tonight, the first place I go isn't home, it's the police. A long, ugly silence. Then, slowly, the 2 men backed off, melting into the dark the way men like that always do when the cost of staying becomes higher than the cost of leaving. The son crossed the alley, held out a hand to the man still pressed against the wall, breathing hard. You're the one from the clinic file. Fatsa. How do you know my name? Because I spent the last 2 days reading everything my father tried to erase. Come with me. It's not safe for you out here alone. Not tonight, maybe not for a while. Across town, a different kind of confrontation was unfolding in an apartment that had, until recently, felt like the safest place in the world. The detective stood in the doorway, badge out of his pocket now, folder under his arm, and behind him a corkboard image burned in his mind, 3 names connected by red string, one family's secret spread thin across 3 lives. I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Not what you think will keep you out of trouble. The truth. I've told you everything I know. Then tell me again. Because the man whose file went missing from your clinic, his blood markers match a bloodline the Ratchapafat family has been chasing for 3 generations. And you happen to work exactly where that file lived, exactly when it disappeared, exactly when someone decided you were disposable enough to frame for a murder that has nothing to do with you. The room went very quiet. You think I'm part of this? I think someone wanted me to think you were. That's not the same thing. The detective set the folder down on the counter, opened it to a photograph, an old registry page, a birth record, a name blacked out except for one surviving fragment. I think you're not the target. I think you're the excuse. The distraction that keeps everyone looking at you instead of at the person they actually want. Beside him, the one who never let go of his hand these days went very still. Then who's the real target? The detective looked at him for a long moment before he answered. Whoever is carrying the next generation of that bloodline. Whoever the Ratchapafat family thinks will finally give them what 3 generations of hunting pure omegas never could. The silence that followed had weight. A hand moved instinctively to a stomach that had, until a few days ago, been nobody's business but their own. In the estate study, the phone rang twice before the master picked it up, already annoyed at the interruption. What? He knows. The voice on the other end was clipped, careful, afraid. Your son. He found the FATSA file. He's the one who pulled the men off him in the alley tonight. For the first time in this entire story, something in the master's expression cracked. Not rage, something colder. Fear, dressed up as fury. He told him? Nakin told him what we. He didn't need telling. He read the files himself. The master set the phone down slowly, staring at nothing, the certainty that had carried him through every scene so far finally, visibly, beginning to slip. Then he needs to understand, he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone in the room, that some doors, once you open them, do not close again. Not for him. Not for anyone standing near him. Back in the apartment, long after the detective had gone, the two of them sat together in the dark, the city's noise muffled behind glass. If they're hunting pure omegas, came the quiet question, hand still resting where it always found its way now, and I'm carrying one, what if they come for our child next? No answer came right away. Just an arm pulling tighter around him, a forehead pressed to his temple, a breath held too long before it finally released. Then they'll have to come through everyone in this room first. And after tonight, that room just got a lot more crowded than they think. A knock at the door. Careful. Not the police this time. Nakin stood on the other side, Fatsa beside him, pale, exhausted, but alive, a folder clutched in his free hand like it was the only solid thing left in a world that had stopped making sense a few days ago. I know who did this to you, Nakin said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. And I know why. My father has spent 30 years trying to secure a bloodline he has no right to. He's willing to burn every innocent life in his path to do it. Including mine. Including, now, yours. He set the folder down on the table between them. Everything's in here. Every altered record, every bribed hospital worker, every name he's erased to get closer to what he wants. It's enough to end him. But if we use it, he won't go quietly. The detective's earlier warning echoed in the room, unspoken but understood by everyone present. No, Nakin agreed. He won't. Which means from tonight, none of us are just witnesses anymore. We're all targets. All of us, in this room. Fatsa looked around at the four of them, strangers 3 days ago, bound now by nothing but a stolen file and a shared enemy, and something like resolve settled over the fear in his face. Then we stop being targets, he said. And start being the reason he finally loses. Next episode, in flashes. A hospital hallway, alarms in the distance, a chart falling from someone's hands. The master's men are already inside the building. Nakin, standing across from his father for what feels like the last time either of them will be able to pretend the other is still family. You made me your excuse for 30 years. Not anymore. The detective, laying documents across a superior's desk, voice hard, I want a warrant tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight. A hand gripping another's tightly as machines beep steadily in the background. Whatever happens in there, I need you to know it was worth it. All of it. And in the dark of a hospital room, a single line, half a whisper, half a vow, he's not going to lose this family. Not while I'm still breathing.